All right, my name is Zach Kinsella. I'm a comic book artist from Denver, Colorado, and I'm going to show you all my drawings of Bigfoot. We're doing so much more cryptids coming up here. I have a new book coming out called Cryptid, which is all about the lonely Mothman. So if you love art, check it out. Here we go. My next one coming up is going to be Bigfoot. I've already started that, so that's where our main process is going to be today. And then also, the next one up after that's going to be Jersey Devil. After that, I have Chupacabra. And then finally, we're going to finish it out with Mothman. That's really what this series is going to be all about. It's coming up to have 6 really cool, high-quality, retro-inspired prints. So, let's get into this. Our, wonderful Bigfoot, Sasquatch. So I'm going to jump in, get back to my blacks here. The brush I've been using is a Max U Sable Inker Clean Multiply. It's a Comics Max pack that was added in here. But you can see I have a go-to of some different brushes that I usually use. A lot of time I usually use dry ink. But I like this simply because... Let's make sure first things first. Let's make sure, and we're on the right layer, right? So... I like using this because it has a more organic feel to it. And I get not quite the Bob Ross vibes, but something where it's just more like Calvin and Hobbes trees that I grew up on that I love to draw. And it kind of depends on I'll just show you up here. You can either go thick, you can go thin, depending on... I like to go fast with this and go back and forth, right? It just gives it a nice, natural feel. And with 2-finger tap, you can undo anything in Procreate, which is awesome. 3-finger tap will redo it. So I like to build up the texture on these. And also, since he's coming out of this as a forest, so if I take off the background layer... Not that one. This one. There we go. I have 2 background layers. You can kind of see the process in black and white, and I'm gonna do up some more of this over here. But these are looking pretty good. There's a big blob up here. I think I messed that up, honestly. It's exactly what it looks like. That's okay. We'll make a again, Bob Ross style, happy mistake, totally fixed. Not really worrying about it too much. I'm going to give this some more branches. But this is supposed to really be indicative of the Pacific Northwest. And hang on, I'm going to do a little bit more promotion here. So, yeah. Alright, let's get back into it. So I like taking a look at this just because you can see, without the sketch layer, be like, huh, did this, this stroke, is this stroke too fat? And it is. This brush is incredibly, you have to really go light with it because it's tough to tame. It's more of a partner. I'm going to drop down the size of it, come to think of it. But, I was trees tend to overlap, so that's why I'm not I'm getting a little wild and getting a little messy with it. Plus, I it gives me a nice, evidence of hand kind of feel to my artwork, and I really miss that digitally, honestly. So as we go, whoop, watch me drop my pencil. Nice. So what I'm looking for is, like, again, to get that natural tree kind of feel, but also just not have to do like 1,000 million tree leaves. Like, these are all like basically in your silhouette form. And they're going to brush right up on the negative space that's on our Sasquatch right here. Put in my sketch layer back again and just see where I was. So like with these brush strokes, I like to just make one thin thorough line through here since they're in the background, and then start again moving out the thick lines. What I think I'm going to be doing, especially down here, is using an eraser to give it a mist vibe. I was listening to a podcast earlier today that was all about cryptids being part of a mist. Like when they're seen, like it's very misty outside and very spooky. And I was just like, man, that's cool. All right. But I also like using an eraser and it's like a splatter brush to give a sense of space, give it atmospheric perspective, if you will. That way it just feels like we're not, like it's not all a flat piece of art. Give it a little 3D vibe. Come back through here. These trees are starting to look pretty cool. Like this just looks like I'm having a good time with this. I'm enjoying like what I'm doing with it right here and now. So as we come back and forth here, like I'm not worrying about like a lot of mistakes. Again, like the woods are not easy to see through, and I just want that feel to be like, okay, like these trees are natural, they're overlapping. It's pretty cool because that's what this brush will do, and it also makes it so much easier to fill in like lots of like black spaces and really just kind of give it the overall feeling. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this does look like, I love spotting blacks is what they call it. And it's a little tough when all your blacks are right together, but at the same time it's also like, man, who cares? Like, that's how the world is. Let your blacks live next to each other. And we'll sort it out later. And like I said, with this little part back here and then back over here, I'm going to put like some like splattering effects over on it. And it's coming out looking pretty cool. Like, I really dig how this is looking. There's a few spots where I'm like, okay, I want to work on the crisscross over there to where it just looks like a little more natural. Like, growing up on comics, one of the things that like that got me was like there was always like these neat lines around everything. Like, you want to have a character stand out from the blackness, from like being all enshrouded in black. And then I got into manga and some alternative comics, and they were very much like, hey, you don't have to, you don't have to do that. You can have them appear from the darkness and be enveloped in the darkness. Guys like Mike Mignola and Frank Miller really came into my life around that time as well too. So it's like, hey, like, why not be bold with your blacks? Like, do it up, because I mean it's gonna look cool. And if anything, I love to live by the rule of cool. All right. Should we put on some tunes? I feel like working without any music is kind of weird sometimes. So, maybe not. I'm not sure. Again, just going to keep filling these sides over here. I thought about putting some music on, but I was like, I'm just going to keep BSing through this as I work. So I'm trying to keep a lot of the foreground image in the negative space, whereas the background image I'm going to fill up with all sorts of wild texture. And I'm doing these mostly these old pine trees, which get kind of thin at the top. We have Bigfoot sightings out here in Colorado every so often. Not too often from what I've heard recently, but this could be Colorado, this would be the Pacific Northwest. They both have like very spiky trees and very spiky mountains right up over the top there. So let's keep going, making some more trees. These trees are, again, I'm working on them being overlapping. I am using a Max Use Sable brush. And the reason I like this one, because if I press down really hard, you can see like it gives that like a very unclean edge to it, so it feels a lot more naturalistic as I work. It kind of looks like I said, there's some really cool texture to that brush. And so that's why I like using with trees, because it feels like real ink, which I haven't used admittedly in a while. Yeah, we're looking good there. It also feels like kind of a palette. Not palette. No, a palette brush. Palette knife. There we go. In the way that it can cut back and forth, but I can also use it lightly to give it some nice clean edges. Let's see what it's looking like without the bottom layer. So there we go. It's starting to look nice and messy, and that's exactly what I wanted for those trees. I wanted mess. Because I feel like whenever people come across these creatures, animals, what have you, it's never clean in a clean place. It's like, aside from the famous original Bigfoot, I love the idea that you're going to only find these creatures coming out of a mist or a very dark forest, that kind of thing. And so trees always overlap. It's weird when you see, for me, it's weird when I see someone draw some trees and they're perfectly spaced. That's the perfectionist artist, and I was like, man, no, I'm here to make messes. I love getting a little crazy with these trees, and also that it blends into old Bigfoot here, but you can see his all this black fur stops in some pretty clear areas. So even if I leave even just a little bit of space, it's gonna look awesome. And that's where I'm really having fun with this piece, because it's I'm taking some chances here to where it doesn't look like, oh man, they're it's not as clean, it's not as neat. And I was when I was doing more work with my brushes when I was a traditional artist and not digital, you couldn't, right now I can just do this, right? And there's no consequences per se. Be that as it may, I've struggled to find really good brushes that would do the job that I want, is to make what looks like a mess. And then I can just erase over, but still feel like I'm making, nothing pretty, nothing I don't know, too clean. I like being a clean artist in a lot of ways, with my line art. But with these trees, I was like, man, trees, they deserve the love as far as being big, messy things that just exist in our world, because they're absolutely beautiful. And I was like, if I'm not capturing it right, I don't feel like I'm doing my job as an artist. I'm going to come back and forth and do some cross hatching to make it feel like that other tree is just chilling out. right behind it. You can kind of see, like, I really want this to stand out. Not so much his legs, but I really wanted this piece to stand out. So I didn't put any, I could easily put a tree right here, but that would be a very weird tangent. Like, it looks like it's coming out of the back of his head instead of like something growing around him. So I just kind of left this space blank so I can give it a little more, the mountains, a little more detail when I come back in through here later. And what I'm going to be doing is taking an eraser here pretty soon and doing like some splatter basically to give it like some more atmospheric perspective to where this will even stick out even further. I'm going to use this for these lines on this tree here. A big influence for me is Genndy Tartakovsky, and his work on Clone Wars and Samurai Jack really like was ingrained to me when I was a lot younger. And so I always try to kind of get those vibes, like along with like Mike Mignola kind of feel, where it's like, yes, I'm more of a like a cartoony like artist here, but I'm also I don't know how else to explain it, honestly. Like, I love being cartoony, but I also love having like these like little dots of realism and texture, to where it's not quite like clean cartoon work. Like, cause like the clean cartoon work, it's cool. It's just not my style, and I don't want my style to be like nice clean edges everywhere. I was like, I love the classic style cartoons, where it's like, you know, a lot of big thick line, a lot of that negative space being taken up by black, and I can still get some of the same effect just kind of coming in through here nice and quick. Might go a little bit smaller with some of this grass, but you know, the light source is going to be like coming from like up here, honestly. So all the light should be coming right over here onto his chest and face, and then like all the blacks, you know, of the forest kind of live back over here in the back right. And the reason why I'm talking about this like coming up, of what I'm going to be doing, is I really want to have some atmospheric perspective when I come in. I don't know why that's hanging out. So what I'll come in do with like a noise brush, and I'll just show you a preview of it. Like, I like to work lightly with it, and it's hard to see it, but it starts taking away, and you can start seeing like it starts giving it almost like a mist quality. And I go around in like a circular motion, and so you can see, like, I'll use a selection tool later to do this so I don't like end up messing that up, but you can see like it starts giving it a really cool atmospheric perspective. And I love the combination of these two textures, and I'm going to go very light on doing it because I don't want to undo everything. But the more I do it and lay it in, again, it gives it like a mist back behind him. And that's one of the cool things you can really use like an eraser for, especially here in Procreate. Man, like, we've got some bonkers brushes and throughout here. Like, I have just like gajillions of brushes inside here, but I really feel like the noise brush, especially when you become extremely subtle with it and you're using your wrist like just ever so lightly, it takes a while to build. But with going slowly, going lightly, and going in circular motion, you start to feel the iPad's texture that's on that's like it's coated with, and it just kind of feels like, man, like you're working in a microscopic way right here, but it's going to look so cool when the whole thing is done. But we're not at that point yet. So I'm going to start making some more marks down over here with these trees in the background. And the lighter, I'm going to come in a little lighter around this branch here because I want there to be like, I'll go over it just a little bit here. I don't want to fill up the whole space with lines, just a little bit of it. Because that light, as it's coming from here, reflects off here, gives it a shadow here, but there's still more light down around over here where his leg hasn't come across there. And I want to make sure that that's known and that's present. And give a little tail onto this tree over here. And the reason why, like one of the reasons why I'm going to use the noise brush here to come into this space, this here, this and this, is because like all this foreground isn't standing out as much as I want it to. And so that's why we use, like, you know, back in the day, what I would use is a toothbrush, and I would just flick it. I would take masking tape over this whole part and do a mask, a literal mask, and just flick white paint or white ink, depending on what I had in stock, over these places, and that would create the texture. And it looked really cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, man, this is an awesome technique, old school comic book technique. And a lot of people are always like, man, you use a toothbrush when you make comics? Like, I would open up my my book, and it would be like, hey, you've got like a couple of brushes, some pens, and then I'd see it. People would see a toothbrush and be like, "The hell is that for?" And I was like, "It's for making a mess, man." Which is something I just love to do. I like being a clean artist, but also, again, like just being a mess maker. I also think, like, man, like making a piece like this a little bit more messy is just the name of the game for me. So the further you go down with these trees, the more these branches come swooping out, just like any other tree you'd see. So I'm like kind of working across, and I move my page across all the time, because like when you turn the brush, it moves in all sorts of different ways, which is like an amazing cool thing about digital art, is that they've really nailed down like how brushes actually work. Cross over here. All right, almost done. I'm going to give some love to these trees up here. They're not trees, mountains up here. And this is where I might bring in some like craft tones. I'm not sure, honestly. Like, I have all these dots, so like I can come in and make, you know, I can do it like that, which looks cool. Like, honestly, but if I'm gonna be going, I'll show you. Like, this is the texture I'm gonna be using, and that uses a lot. The color uses a lot of dots. So when I come in to color it, like, the black dots get lost. So I might come back to my go-tos and use my dry ink brush. I stinking love the dry ink brush. You know, I live by mountains, so I know pretty well what they look like. I'm really, like, this part right here is bothering me a lot because I really want it to be there, to be something there, but I don't want it to be a tangent, and I don't want it to interfere with the trees. So let's play around. So if I put something down there, it still comes out of his head. So I might let the color do its thing down there, and I think that's where I'm going to come alongside with, and do some small line work here and give this a little bit of a thicker line for it to stand out. I really like Zafino artwork. He did a book called Winter World, and used blacks in such an amazing way. Might try for some cross hatching down here. And I try to emulate that as much as I can whenever I do like forest imagery. Is like, man, try to get some of those heavy blacks. And up here, I'm not really going for it. Like, I'm gonna use a little bit of like cross hatching and then start like building that cross hatching into more blacks and see how it looks. I'm a little choosy when it comes to like cross hatching, because like if I do cross hatching, for example, like sometimes you'll just see people do it like this and leave it there, and that just, it drives me like super crazy. I'll be honest, because it's not this. Like I want the cross hatching to like subtly emerge from the black and be like, oh, okay. Like even this right over here, I'm gonna have to pull my brush down a little bit. And sometimes this isn't the right brush to do cross hatching. The reason why is because like if you go lightly with it, like you'll see like there's all this, like it's not a complete line. So it's a little tougher to do cross hatching but with it, but you know, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like the challenge of it. It's like, how do we make this look good? And I think right now it's getting there. And that'll also come out a little bit. I do cross hatching in 3 ways. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I go this way. Then I go that way. So I do like a little bit more of an intricate cross hatching, so it'll actually, you know, look like it's coming out of blacks, and then start filling it in with some black there to make it look like, okay, this looks a little more, I just want to look a little more natural. And the rest I might leave as lines, you know, just as like we're further up the mountain there and we're using like white for the snow caps is what I'm envisioning here. When I look from it from far away, like I'm not 100% sure I like it or not. Like that's the only part of the mountain that's black. I'm like, nah, maybe not. We'll try this over here and try to, like, if there's one thing that has to happen for me, like these themes of like have to repeat more than once. Like I do not like it when just one thing shows, when the cross hatching shows up only in one spot. So like if I haven't put cross hatching like down over here, like, and I put it up here and just in one spot, I'm like, I gotta do it in a couple different spots just to balance out the illustration. Which thankfully on this one, not too hard to do. I'm gonna like do it again over here as well too. It's also one of those things where it's like, did this need cross hatching? Maybe not. But I saw some Art Adams work recently that really geeked me out on cross hatching, and I was like, man, I kind of want to I want to ape some of that. No pun intended to Art Adams there. But I'm like, yeah, let's do some cross hatching. Let's play around with that. See how it works with my style. And that's also like, you know, that's always the thing, is like I always like, I just want to see how this works with my work. I was like, is it successful? Sometimes. Is it not? Sometimes. So there we go. I think that's looking a little better. It's just constantly working it in, working it in, working it in. And I mean, another thing I could do as well is put some cross hatching back here. But yeah, I don't really feel it in the background, honestly. It's really just like, what's the vibe? What's that illustration wanting me to do? Because illustrations kind of have a mind of their own. All right, we are looking good here. Yeah, I think I like that because it's like a little bit further back. It feels more balanced now. I'm not going to do any of that over here. I might make this line a little bit thicker. That way when I start coming in with my eraser here soon, like this will all look like, oh yeah, okay, it'll look good. With each of these I've been doing like also a little portrait down over through here and then putting some lettering right over there like Bigfoot, right? So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to start doing some erasing here. I've got another 15 minutes or so I think left, so I'm going to try, and man, we've been cranking away on this one here. Half an hour so far. So this is cool, having a good time. To whomever is with me, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I was going to make that clean, then I decided against it. I was like, no clean. Only mess. All right, let's work on our Bigfoot. He's got kind of a brow there. Actually, I kind of liked it with the... There we go. Do his eyes line up? Yes, they do. Give him a nice wide nose there. My Bigfoot means business. I don't want him to be a happy Bigfoot. I do want him to have a double chin, though. I don't know why. Give him little striations. He's kind of like a meathead Bigfoot. Like, hey. I should probably do this as well. I usually do this with a much thicker pen, so I'm going to do that here in a few minutes and give it a border so it makes it easier when we come into the coloring phase of it. Alright, so I'm going to go back to this brush here, the clean multiplier, and give him some thick strokes of hair. I don't put any smoothing on with this brush at all. I like how messy it is. You don't know if Bigfoots are clean or not. You know, we don't even know if they exist, I'll be honest with you. But, like, I feel like most primates know how to clean themselves, as I've observed them. At the zoo, at least. It's like, I feel like they're pretty good at cleaning themselves, so I'm going to go with that. I got this book, I'll show y'all real quick. It's called Orochi, and if you look at the hair right over here, yeah, I would love to do that, but I'm not going to with this brush. I was like, I want this sense of, like, mystery with this hair. There's, like, that it's creating the same texture as the trees in essence, and that it's kind of a little wiry. Big old blob hair there. He's looking pretty cool. That's where it gets weird, because you got to like, move this around a little bit to kind of give it the right texture. These brushes work exactly like they do in the real world, and man, I love how much work some of these folks put into these brushes, because coming in and getting that kind of texture is such an ace. There we go. Bigfoot coming back out. This is my Bigfoot. He's a big grossoid. It's going to be awesome when he's done. We'll do the next Twitch stream all about the coloring, I think, of one of these. And if you want to, you can always catch me on TikTok at Zach Kinsella, ZAKKINSELLA. So I want to keep going as we're talking here, and I want to show you at least a little bit of the erasing that I'm going to be doing here. So I don't put my brush opacity for eraser all the way up. And you can come in and do it fast, right? But that's not the point. Like, what I really want to do is make a selection. Oop, wrong one. I'm going to turn off this layer. And this one here. What I'm doing is just tracing around the line of this tree, which I realize is really tough to see. But I'm also doing the same thing with my Bigfoot here. And I'm only going to do the trees. So come in and do some light erasing. This is what I'll call it here. I just wanted to have that. I wanted to have it. Bleh, I wanted to have some mist. Oop, I went too hard on that one. And I'm going in a very light circular style. That's why I'm holding my pen like way up high. Or my pencil, excuse me. This is where that atmospheric perspective is going to look so cool. And I'm not using a whole lot. Just a little bit. Just keeping my wrist straight, but I'm using my my elbow here to move this around in circles and keep it steady. This is like how guitarists do it. All right. Almost there. It's going to give us a nice background. Yeah, there it goes. So this is like where I really wanted the shadows to come out, but not too much. I want the foreground for the Bigfoot to be like the main bad mamma jamma. And it just kind of occurs to me that I was like, man, I hope this translates when I bring it over into into the textured piece. And I think it will, but that gives the whole thing this kind of windowed texture, not windowed, weathered textured look. But I wanted to go an extra mile and make this stuff down over here look weathered first, because you're starting to see, and I'm going a little like just going a little off the script here. I'm like, you know what? I can control my wrist pretty well. I think I'm just going to go without doing the selection here because it looks a little bit more natural to do that. Yeah. And so this is something where, like, you know, you really just want, you know, to have a good control over your wrist if you're going to do it willy-nilly like I'm doing here. But now you're starting to see, like, where that Bigfoot looks so much like he's coming right out. And that there's spacing, and that, like, you're going to be able to see, like, this tree so much better. With this one, I am going to do a little bit because I really want that definition of that tree line to come out. I want to keep the grass separate too. Eraser, let's go. So again, we're going slow. When you go slow, that's when the real magic of Procreate and the iPad Pro starts to come out. And you might not want to always go slow, but once you start doing it, again, you start feeling the texture of the iPad. You start feeling your brush in ways you didn't know that it was made for. So cool. And again, just slowing it down gives you such better results. We're getting there, friends. We are getting there. And you don't have to go so slow that you're just like, oh, I'm going slow. That's not the point. The point was, like, really, like, to not miss out on things that you, like, might have missed going fast, you know? The point is also to be like, hey, like, you're going to be able to observe it in some ways that are kind of unique. Like this. I was like, okay, that looks like I missed some spots. And I'm going in circles. Slowly but surely. We are almost done with our time here. But I want to take the last few moments to get this. Looking good, looking good. Looks like I got some stuff to fill in with our Sasquatch here. Again, I want to make sure. Well, this one is the hardest one because I really got messy with this one. That's okay. Again, slowly circling. I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. Yeah, feeling good, looking good. Subtractive drawing is something that, like, whenever I'm teaching art, is always something that so many folks are like, whoa, right? Like, they have their Keanu moments. But at the same time, it's like, man, I used to do so much scratchboard. That's what they called it in high school for me. I was just like, yeah, I would do these all, like, just take a piece of black paper and just start subtracting. And it's such a fun thing to do. So, all right, Bigfoot, part 1. He is almost done. We are rocking and rolling. Thank you so much for joining me. Check out more on the channel every Sunday from now on. So I'll be doing a different piece. If you want to see the rest of this process, I'll have it up on TikTok at Zach Kinsella. You can also check my Instagram out at Zach Kinsella as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bigfoot, right? Super cool. The next part, I'll have a lot more about the color process I'm using. You can catch that on Twitch or you can catch it here on YouTube. It's going to be so awesome. If you want to, leave a comment. Tell me who your favorite cryptid is. I take requests and I'll also take commissions. So if you want to see what's coming up next, keep following me along. We're doing some ghosts in the future. I have so much more cool comic stuff planned out for us. So, as always, thank you so much. Subscribe, stay here for some love, and take care.